guys, Pariah here. I just got the Ontrigger system for triggering my kick pedals. I've been using D-drum triggers for a really long time, and I really liked them. Previously, I used the D-drum Pro dual triggers that have two sensors in them. I really liked those, and I just kind of got sick of misfires and trouble with triggering the kick, and I don't think it's necessarily any particular trigger's fault. I've used Roland triggers and had good success with those, but they also misfire sometimes. And sometimes if you're on a real loud stage, you know, the thump of the kick in the monitors, or the snare or bass, anything like that, can cause misfires and other problems. So I wanted to try something that actually attaches to the pedal. I had looked into pedal trigger, I looked into Ontrigger. I personally didn't like the design of pedal trigger as much. I thought there was a lot of added hardware, and it seemed like just something that it didn't look as reliable. And to me, it made more sense with this design, where the footboard actually presses down and triggers the kick. So these guys are out of the Czech Republic. I think it might be just one guy that makes these, but I'm not really sure. I watched some videos that I happened to come across and thought they were really cool. Looked into it for a while, debated on what I wanted to do, and eventually bit the bullet and got them. So I'll kind of give you an idea what they look like. The design itself is genius. I used to replace the sensors on my D-drum triggers myself. You can order them for like $8 on eBay. These I like because the D-drum triggers require soldering. This doesn't require any soldering. The sensor itself actually unplugs just like this. You can see this little clip right here. It's like you know, whatever size is below the 1/8 inch, just a little thing. Came with an extra sensor that has the adhesive and everything, and so that can actually be replaced pretty quick. Like if I really needed to, I could replace that in seconds on stage in the studio. I mean, it's pretty sweet. You know, I never would have been able to do that with any other trigger. It also came with this extra adhesive strip that you can see is for the bottom to attach that to the pedal. So, you know, I figured I'd film the installation and show you guys how these work. And I'll be like demonstrating them in different videos over the next couple weeks, like at practice and with my practice pads and with actual kicks, so you can see. That's one of the things I like about these, is that I can use them on my pads without any issues. I had actually modified my Gibraltar pads. I'll show you here real quick. I put this little piece of plywood there and kind of attached that so that I could clip a traditional acoustic kick trigger to my pad, and it would trigger that so that I could practice with, you know, actual triggers when I'm not around my kit. So here's all the parts it came with. This is the actual trigger unit. One of the biggest reasons I went with this too is because it has the XLR connector, which was one of the reasons I always liked the D-drum over Roland, personally, of all the triggers I tried. And a little background, I've been triggering kicks for a very long time, more than 10 years. I've used old Roland modules like the TD6, the TD4. For many years I used the DM5, which was kind of the industry standard, until people started switching to the TM-2, which to me is just genius. The TM-2 is incredible. It triggers very well, and I like being able to use my own samples. I actually trigger a sample of my Thomas Star Classic from the studio that I EQ'd for live, and it's great. Got a lot of big sound to it, nice low end, but also like good high end punch and clarity. Clicky, but not so clicky that it doesn't sound like a kick. It does actually sound like a kick drum, which is what I like. So I got the two sensors. Came with these zip ties, which are going to be used to attach the cable to the pedal itself once everything's installed. This is actually the mechanism which goes on the footboard, which goes down and kind of hits that, and kind of triggers You can see I've installed it on one pedal already. Just goes right on the bottom there, and it's bendable to adjust like where it hits the trigger, which I know that may seem sketchy to some of you, but this piece of metal is actually thicker than I expected it to be. It's good, it's quality, it's not just gonna like bend out of place while you're playing. So I thought that was the first thing that you're gonna want to do is you have to loosen up this right here. I'll try to get this light to make a little more sense. Apologies for any background noise for the fan or anything else. It is very hot. It's the middle of July. Even though I'm on the East Coast, it is still very warm out here. So I have the Pearl Demon drive for anybody who doesn't use this pedal. This installation might be a little less relevant. It'll give you an idea of how these work, but I think the installation is slightly different for each pedal. If you have the Demon drive and you've never really taken it apart, you should, and you should clean it more often. I need to clean mine more often. These are kind of dirty, so sorry about that. I usually take better care of my pedals, but been kind of busy lately. But after these are installed, I will eventually go through a full cleaning, re-oil all the bearings and stuff like that. And when you take this screw out of the Demon drive, always be careful, because you have this little washer here. And I'll show you how I put that back later. I got a little trick for it, because you don't want to lose that stuff. So you kind of have to detach that. It's going to be a lot easier for you to get in there. They were actually cool enough to include a hex wrench, which is kind of sweet. I didn't expect that. I have my own, but it's still kind of cool that they included that. And since it's already out, I'm just going to use this. It's even got the nice thing on the bottom where, you know, you can angle it, which is very helpful. Alright, so you got to detach that. This is a fairly easy process, this part anyway. So you just take the tongue, make sure the curved side is upward. Put the washer between the this little tongue thing and the pedal board. I'm going to tighten this a little bit, but not quite all the way yet, because we're going to have to kind of line it up with where the trigger is. I'm new to this too, so I was just talking to my buddy John Glassbrenner from Incontinence. He's a great drummer, and he's interested in these. I know that he and many other people had issues with pedal trigger kind of falling apart, so Ontrigger is kind of one of the things that he was interested in. So shout out to John. He's actually one of the reasons I'm making this video, so that you know, other drummers can see what's going on here, because this company's actually out of the Czech Republic, so I think a lot of people are new to them and haven't had the opportunity to really check out their products. And since I have them, it seems like it would be good to show you what's going on here. So I'm just going to use this little box to stabilize this. Now the way that I do this with this little washer is I will kind of set the washer there and slowly kind of guide it in till it's in between, and then I come up with the bolt from underneath. As you can see, I got to kind of line it up. There we go. Now the bolt is through the washer and in there, and I didn't have to try to get in there with any weird little tools, because that can be a pain. Okay, so that's good to go. Now for the other part, installing the actual trigger. I want to make sure that our get this light out of the frame. I want to make sure that our pedal is actually clean on the bottom so that this can stick. It looks like it has this pretty high quality, like double-sided adhesive on the bottom, so we want to make sure that sticks really well. We can't have that falling off while we're playing. So I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to install this thing quite yet. I've got 91% rubbing alcohol, and I'm just kind of getting in here and cleaning the grime off the bottom of the pedal. These things are down on the floor, so they get dirty, they get nasty. Now, the other good thing about Ontrigger is they came with these nice instructions that actually demonstrate exactly how to put them on the pedals that you do own, which is really nice. I like that a lot. This, the way that I've seen in the pictures, it kind of looked like a little bit more to the left, which seems like a relatively good spot. It's kind of out of the way of the hoop clamps and stuff like that. So that seems like it would be relatively good. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get the pad and I'm going to put the beater in. So now you can see that when the footboard is down, it actually hits the sensor, which is great because now we can actually adjust this appropriately. You can actually go forward with the installation. It's one of the things I'm going to do. Just mark with a little dot there, a little dot there, just to give a rough idea of where it's going. Oh, you put Sharpie on the pedals. Yeah, well, alcohol will take that off, so that's not a big deal. I've used a lot of different double-sided tape, and that's some of the more quality adhesive that's out there. So I'm not worried about this moving. I think this will actually stay in place pretty well. So we're gonna just kind of go by our marks, and that's good. We still have the ability to move this little kind of spoon handle thing left or right and bend it up or down, but you can see that it definitely triggers there. So I'm going to press this down and wiggle it a little and make sure it's in place. And yeah, so just to demonstrate how I ended up hooking this up on my pedal, this is the left hand pedal. I use 2 kicks. So I actually curled it around and through this way. It'll be non-invasive that way. It won't get pinched or anything. And that way it's coming out on the left because I actually keep my trigger module on the left side. So it just made more sense to have it coming out right there rather than having the cable on the inside of my feet and having to go up and over, you know, to the left side. Okay, just a quick little tip. If you're using the Roland TM-2 like I do, get yourself TRS connectors, as in tip, ring, sleeve, like a headphone extension or jack, because the TM2 is actually designed to be able to trigger several different dynamic zones on a pad, or pads that have multiple trigger zones, like a rim and the actual head part. In order to prevent misfires, which sometimes you might get, it was recommended to me to use TRS, and I suggest the same thing. It'll just save you some trouble. We have the triggers installed. I've got everything plugged in, and I've adjusted the little spoon thing that hits the trigger sensor on the bottom. I'll probably have to adjust it more to fit what I'm trying to do, just to make it totally accurate. But that's the cool thing, is you can change it so that it really reacts like exactly when you hit the drum head. So it can kind of compensate for any latency that might exist, even though the TM2 has like the lowest latency of any module for kick triggering. This will eliminate any and all latency. So as you can see, works pretty well. don't mind the sound of the triggers. They're running through just crappy speakers right now, just so you can hear them in the room, and I didn't have to do any recording through my interface or anything. But so as you can see, they work pretty well. As you can see, it doesn't press down incredibly hard. It really just kind of touches the sensor, and so it's sensitive, but it's not so much that it's just smashing on that thing, so it's going to destroy it. This is easily the most responsive trigger I've ever used, by far. It feels good. I can't wait to try it out on actual kicks. I'm also going to do a little video sometime soon of this whole setup that I have for my in-ear monitors on stage. This is my Pelican case, and I'll kind of go through how I rig it up and everything with backing tracks and keys and all that stuff. But thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed this.